Deftones is a band that formed in Sacramento, California in 1988. Over their 34 years of being a band, they've dropped 9 albums, most recently with their 2020 release, Ohms. Personally, I was introduced to Deftones around 2016 along with that year's release, Gore, due to radio exposure and an existing affinity to similar artists like Korn, Limp Bizkit, and Tool. I recently saw Deftones live for the first time with Bree, and I was gonna vlog it, but I much rather would have been present in the moment. However, to make up for it, I'm going to be doing an album tier list. I hope you enjoy it, and if you've never listened to Deftones, go check them out because they're really, really good. Here we go. We have all 9 albums that they have released down here at the bottom. I went ahead and put them in order. So here we have Adrenaline, Around the Fur, White Pony. They're self-titled, Saturday Night Wrist, Diamond Eyes. I can never remember the name of it. I guess maybe it's in a different language, but it's No Yokon. This one is Gore, and then this one is Ohms. I think I'm just going to go in this order. I'm going to go, obviously, put them where I think they belong, in my personal opinion, and I'm going to start first to last. So first is Adrenaline. This was their debut album from 1995. I think it sounds good. I do think it sounds good. Even their debut album is a pretty groundbreaking thing. They're very influential. I mean, Bree has the Adrenaline CD, and we'll listen to it in the car sometimes. Some of my favorite tracks on that album are Bored, Engine Number 9, and Minus Blindfold. And it was, I got introduced from Gore, but the other bands that were similar to them that I liked, they would talk about how they like Deftones a lot. So I've always wanted to not just listen, like if something interested me that much, I didn't want to listen to just one. I wanted to know all of it. And Adrenaline is one of my favorites, probably goes in the A tier. I have albums that I like more, and there's albums that I definitely like less. So I think A is pretty reasonable for Adrenaline. Next, we have Around the Fur from 1997. I always liked the album art because it's a pretty lady. This was another album that was one of the first ones I listened to. Extremely popular. A lot of people know a lot of songs on this album. A couple of my favorites on it is Shove It. I mean, Around the Fur title track is a banger. I feel like the most popular song they have, in my opinion, Be Quiet and Drive, and that's on this album. Damn, this is fucking hard. I'm gonna say I like Around the Fur, but I think I like Adrenaline more. So for now, I'm going to put it in B, but it's subject to change. All right, on to White Pony. White Pony is their 2000 release. It reached 3rd on the Billboard. Probably their most popular release to date. They've adopted the White Pony logo on a shit ton of merch. I literally was just looking at their merch website like last night, and they have like red flannels with the embroidered pony on it, and then they have like a pair of socks that are camouflage, but it's just the pony just splotched in different places. So I'd say it's their most successful and most talked about records, and for good reason, because it's a fucking good one. I'm pretty sure it has Bree's favorite songs. It has a couple of my favorite songs. The ones I particularly like, Digital Bath, Knife Party. A lot of people like Passenger, but I'm not. I don't know. I don't like that song a whole lot, or at least as much as other people like it. I'm pretty sure Passenger is Ryan's favorite song. It also has Change, and that is a huge one for them. I'd say based on my personal feelings, though, I think I like White Pony more than I like Around the Fur. But do I like it more than Adrenaline? I'd say I like it about the same for different reasons. I think they sound different, obviously, because they're, 5 years apart, and they've had an album in between. But I'd say it probably goes on A tier. I think that's a good spot for it. The next one we got is their 2003 release. Just it's a self-titled album. I think it's good. There's only one song that I really, really like, and then the rest of them, none of them really stand out to me. It did reach second on the Billboard, though. The song that I like most on this album is Hexagram, and other than that, I think Minerva is good. I really don't touch on this album too much. I know I like Around the Fur more, but I don't think it belongs in D tier. So I think C tier is a pretty good spot for their self-titled album. It was a lot heavier than everything else that they had done. I think for me, it goes at C tier. If it was tier list for songs on this album, Hexagram would be an S tier because good lord, that's a good fucking song. But one song on an 11 song album doesn't cut it for me. You know, the whole album has to be a bit more on up there. And now here we are to Saturday Night Wrist. I think I've made it pretty clear that I do like this album a lot. Released in 2006. I think I heard in an interview that Chino was not very happy with this one, but I personally like this one a lot. It has songs like Hole in the Earth, Beware, which is my number one favorite song on this album, Cherry Waves, Rats, Rats, Rats. I have gotten so close to paying over $100 for this record on vinyl from Discog, and I think if I just went for it, I wouldn't regret it too much, just based on how much I like this album. I definitely like it more than Adrenaline. I definitely like it more than White Pony. So in my personal opinion, this belongs in S tier. I think S tier is a good spot. I've listened to this album so much, and I could probably still listen to it for years and years to come. Like, my kids are gonna know about this album. Now for their 2010 release, Diamond Eyes. It's a good one. I like it a lot. I hope I actually use all the tiers, because if one makes it into D tier, I'll feel bad because I like them all. But I don't know, maybe I just would feel bad for putting one in D tier. But anyways, Diamond Eyes, 2010. The title track is amazing. It has other songs like Beauty School, Sex Tape, 976 Evil. Those are all really, really good. My favorite on the album is Sex Tape, and I'll tell you what, I have probably annoyed so many people with the sheer amount that I'd play that song on guitar. It's just kind of hypnotizing to play that opening riff or whatever it is. Beautiful song Sex Tape is. That's another one. Go listen to Hexagram and go listen to Sex Tape, and that'll probably show you a pretty crazy range that this band has. I do like this album more than the self-titled, and I think it has less songs that I like than Adrenaline and White Pony. So I'm gonna put this bad boy right there in B tier. 2012 release, No Yokon. I was right. It is a different language. Wikipedia says its title is a phrase from Japanese language translating to premonition of love. The album is very like lovey-dovey. I know a lot of people that like this album a lot. I had a friend that was a couple years older than me, and his favorite t-shirt was a Koi no Yokon shirt. I've caught my older sister listening to this album. I know Bree likes some of the songs on this album, but the only song I know and kind of like is Tempest. Tempest is the only song on this record that I could tell you the title of it. I'm not a huge fan of the song. I think the only other good one is Goon Squad, which I forgot was on this record, if I'm being completely honest. Actually, as a matter of fact, I'm wearing a Goon Squad hat that I did get from the concert, which was amazing. Sorry about it. This album has never really interested me a whole lot. I don't know, maybe if I sat down and listened to it again today or maybe a month or 2 months from now, I might really get into it. But with the ones I already have on the list in their spot, and the 3 I have down here, I know that this one's going to have to go to D tier. I'm sorry if this is your favorite one, but for me, it's not. It just doesn't do it, homie. After No Yokon, about 4 years later, they released Gore. Gore is an album that is very near and dear to my heart because it's the first album that I was there for. I was alive by the time they had released White Pony, but I was like fucking 1 years old. So Gore was very, very important to me. I have this record on vinyl, and I'll show it to you. Yay! I have vinyl! It's double sleeved. Oh, it has this nice, beautiful sunset over the ocean. It's a pretty rad pressing. I have listened to this album so much. Man, what a good album. A couple of my favorite songs on this album is definitely Hearts Wires, Prayers Triangles, and Rubicon. But honestly, I'm looking at the track list right now. I actually love every single song on this album. So I think it's a very, very easy decision to put Gore into S tier. I just love this album. I love it more than Saturday Night Wrist. But Saturday Night Wrist is definitely second place. And Gore reached second on the Billboard. Consequence of Sound placed it at number 40 on their top 50 albums of 2016. Rolling Stone placed it at 7th on the top 20 metal albums of 2016. So it's been received very, very well. Critics love it. But who gives a fuck what they think? It's all about what I think today and right now, doing this list while you're watching me. And last but not least, we have Ohms. This is their 2020 release, and for the most part, I like it. I haven't listened to it too much, but what I have heard from it is very good. The number one song that stands out in my head is Pompeji, if that's even how you pronounce it. Pompeji. 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 Aside from my lack of knowledge on this album, I'll just tell you some of the accolades that this album has got. Consequence of Sound placed it at 7th on the top 50 albums of 2020. Kerrang placed it at 3rd for their 50 greatest albums of 2020. Loudwire placed it at number 1 for the 70 best rock and metal albums of 2020. Metal Hammer placed it at number 1 on 50 best metal albums of 2020. And Revolver placed it at number 1 at 25 best albums of 2020. So I'd say people are liking it. And Brie actually has this on vinyl. There you go. You can see it. Oh, wow. It's just like a bunch of dot things, and it has these two eyes. One of them's crying. I'm pretty sure this was a Christmas gift from Cole and Little Brie, but nonetheless, it was still a cool gift because, I mean, we love Deftones. With all that being said, this is really up to how I feel about the album. Kerrang and Loudwire and whoever else can say, oh, it's the best fucking album this year. And that's fine if that's what they believe. But just because a lot of people bought it or a lot of people like it doesn't mean I'm all those people. I do want to explore this album more and I want to get to know it. So I think I'm going to do that. But I do know that the songs I've heard, like the title track and Pompeji, are so good. And for that reason, that I can name 2 of the songs on it, I think I'm going to have to put it in a B tier. And the reasoning is because I wouldn't put it into D tier based on I haven't listened to it enough to put it that low. And what I have listened to it, I like it a lot more than No Yokon. I can name 1 song on their self-titled album. While I like that song a lot, I can name 2 songs off of Ohms. I know that what I have heard from it, I don't like it nearly as much as Saturday Night Wrist or Gore. I like it almost as much as Adrenaline and White Pony, but I more realistically like it about the same amount as Around the Fur and Diamond Eyes. So I think B tier is the perfect spot in this moment. Maybe in a couple months, I'll listen to it more and it'll move up to A, or I like it a lot and it moves up to S. But for now, it's going into B. And I think we've completed our little adventure here. Just to recap, in S tier, we have Saturday Night Wrist and Gore. In A tier, we have Adrenaline and White Pony. In B tier, we have Around the Fur, Diamond Eyes, and Ohms. In C tier, we have the self-titled album. And in D tier, we have No Yokon. I do want to reiterate, I like all these albums. I like all of them. Even the one in D tier. I like it, but I am not as invested in it as the others. All of them are amazing in their own way. They're never pushing out the same thing over and over again. I think all these albums have different elements and just things about them that make them different from one another. All of them reflect a different time in the members of the band's lives. Who knows? I don't. I just know what I hear, and this is the ranking of what I like based on what I hear. Before I end the video, I would like to point out that today's May 4th, and it's little Benji Buddy's birthday. We're about to go over to my sister's house to have a little celebration for my guy here. So be sure to subscribe, and in the comments, tell Benji happy birthday. He is 3 years old today. He got a new collar, and he got a new toy, and he got a pig's ear.